Okay, we are live. Hi, everybody. I have so many greetings to give this afternoon, but it's not going to be long. My name is Lisa Dublin. Wherever you're watching me from, Watch Radio family, welcome. You would be on Facebook. We are also on Watch Radio on YouTube. My Basement Chronicles channel on YouTube is also streaming live. I am also on LinkedIn as well. Wherever you're watching me from, I actually have a guest today. So you know what? I think our show is going to be like way more interesting. People together always make for more interesting conversations. A special shout out to those who are in the Speak with Confidence group. Just a little note about what happens in Speak with Confidence, that after you graduate, then you become part of the big networking group of graduates who hail from so many countries and are doing so many great things. And we've had a really wonderful time this week in particular, just exploring who we are, gave them some prompts, and it was just a wonderful conversation when people come together. But without further ado, you guys, I want to introduce my guest. Now, it's a guest and it's a friend and it's somebody who did Speak with Confidence. You might know her, you might have seen her because she's all over now speaking. I'm telling you, I mean, I have to get a booking right now. You know what I mean? Like she has to go to bed early because she has a speaking engagement tomorrow. Okay, right? Hey, Dr. Julie Xavier, how are you?
I am fine and well. How are you, Lisa?
I'm fine. A public apology for the tardiness because that was on me. And, the number one thing that we learned in Speak with Confidence about preparation. Okay.
Indeed,
Preparation.
definitely. Yes.
Yes, I kind of broke my own rules, but I thank you for your time and, just for just being a champ about it, as always, as you always are.
That's what friends are for, yeah?
I know, right? This has been a long
Mhm.
time. Have we been friends for over 30 years? Is this what this is giving?
Yes, it is
Gee,
over 30 years. I mean, we're 50, Lisa.
oh, like
And we met
how?
before we were 20, so yes, it's over
Yeah,
30 years.
we met before we were 20. We met in convent in at St. Joseph's
Exactly.
Convent.
At
Yeah.
a high school, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So shout out to all the convent folks. If you are watching, tag somebody, say,
Mhm.
hey, convent girls or older convent girls are on.
Yes.
Okay. So Julie, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so hi everyone again. And as we said, I am all of 50 years old now. Lisa is not 50 yet.
I'm
I'm
gonna
a
be
little older than her.
yeah, just a little
Yeah, I
older.
know.
Right.
So I turned 50 in April, and I am happily married to my wonderful husband, Corin
Thank you, Chloe.
Xavier. Very God fearing and wonderful husband, and very supportive. He helped us.
Yeah,
He helped me
he
today.
just saved us right there. He just saved my
Saved
skin
us,
right there.
yes, as far as technology is concerned. And we have two beautiful and very smart daughters who keep us very busy and always laughing. I have a PhD from Clemson University in International Family and Community Studies. That's basically a fancy way of saying sociology, but with a focus on
Oh.
families and communities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love to dance. I love to travel. I love to sing gospel music while I'm doing my work in the kitchen. I love to curl up with a good book, and I really enjoy going on some nice long walks on the beach and definitely working out. So that's
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Right. Yo, she always had toned arms. Okay, before toned arms were a thing with Michelle Obama, whatever. Anybody who remembers Julie, which back then she was Julie
Oh
Nurse.
my.
Yeah, Julie always had toned arms. That was in for Julie, like just always nicely toned. And she's just
Thank you,
continued along that
Lisa.
path. Some people are just naturally blessed that way. Some other people like me just have to lift the weights to get it, but that's fine. That's okay.
But some people do have to work at keeping it that way. We still have to work at keeping it. Yeah.
Yeah, you
It doesn't
absolutely
just
have to.
stay, you
Yeah.
know.
Do you do weights, Julie? Do you ever do weights still?
I do a little at home, yes. I do a
Okay.
little.
All
Just off
right.
and on. Just
Okay.
to keep the arms nicely toned, as you said.
Yes. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So here's some background about why we are here, how we find ourselves here. So Julie was in Speak with Confidence cohort 7 or 8, Julie, 7, cohort 7.
7, yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we've been friends for a long time, colleagues as well. Then we did coaching together. And then like I they say that you don't coach your friends, but sometimes when you know people, like you just, I think that there's a gelling sometimes, and that happened with us. So she did speak with
Definitely.
confidence, and as usually happens with a lot of the people there, you'll tell me, Julie has always been the person. Very early, she decided, okay, before Speak with Confidence, she decided that she was not going to one have a traditional job. You remember that? This is from way
Yeah.
back when we lived together in Trinidad. I believe it's
Yeah.
from way back then. And then
Hmm.
when it came time to start talking about marriage and kids, the second thing that you said, I remember, was that you didn't want to like send your kids to regular school or something.
Regular school? No, no. I think long before I had any children, yes, I had decided. I think just what I saw in some of the schools sometimes it was really scary to me, and
Mhm.
even some of the experiences I had and we had, when we think about it, they were not always the best experiences. Some of us had good days, some of us had, more bad days than others. But generally speaking, I used to say, you know what, I'm not gonna let my children go to school, and it just so happened that I ended up marrying somebody who felt the same way, and we had the same ideas as far as trying to ensure that the value system that was important to us, we were able to pass it down and ensure that we kept them in that, not a bubble as such, but really protected, physically and otherwise, because when you go to the school, sometimes the challenges I see, I'm like, oh my goodness. And the way parents come to me and speak about their experiences, it just keeps reconfirming for me why we decided we were going to homeschool our children. And when COVID-19 came, that was like the perfect opportunity. We decided to test it out and it
Mhm.
worked. And I mean, it was not easy, but it was definitely worth it.
Okay. And so the kids ever your first child did 1 year of public school of
Yes,
like going into the
did,
school
she
system?
did. She's now 9, and yes, just around COVID was when she was starting kindergarten.
Okay.
And she completed it, did really well and everything. And we just decided, no, that it was not going to work for us.
Yeah.
And the second one, she also did preschool. So she did have some experience as well at school. And, I mean, they didn't have any terrible experiences as such. It was good. They had a good teacher and everything. But for us, it was just reading the room, reading the society, reading what was going on, and just deciding this is not what we want for them at this time.
Okay. All right. So, for those people who don't know, Julie, this is a homeschooling mom or parent because they're co-parenting. This is a homeschooling mom in St. Lucia. And I think that is what something that really catches people by surprise because most people know of homeschooling. So, for example, I'm homeschooling the first two here it is in Canada, but it's way possible, and you're not the only one doing it. Like to your
Mm-mm.
amazement, you've discovered this whole community of
Yes,
people in
definitely.
St. Lucia and the rest of the
In
Caribbean.
St. Lucia and the Caribbean, yes. I
Yeah.
mean, in Bermuda, for example, I have a friend from way back when I studied a little while at York University in Canada. I met her, and she was, really like-minded. And now she has a daughter about the same age as my daughter. I think just about a year older. And she has been doing it from the onset. She knew what she was about, and she's part of this big Bermuda network of homeschoolers. I'm a part of them, listening and watching in terms of their WhatsApp group, getting a lot of insight from them. And it's amazing the things they do. They have a sports day. So it's like, yes, they are homeschooled, but they're not different in the sense, they are not excluded from the social activities that people tend to think
Mm-hmm.
will happen. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So that's like setting the stage. So let's fast forward to this would have been 2023 when you did Speak with Confidence because we have had one
Mhm.
a year. So cohort 7, we just completed cohort 9, so that was like two cohorts ago. And what struck us, I hope my mic is okay. What struck everybody was what usually happens when you are in speaking practice, that the thing that comes most naturally to you, it just rises to the surface. You remember that? And then
Yeah.
one day when Julie was doing one of the presentations that were are mandatory for the course, it was the way that she went into speaking about parenting. And I swear, like even being in the speaking business, you can tell the people who are in the thing, right? Your slide presentation. She had like, I saw you just did that slide presentation like perhaps not too long ago. Just a couple lines on each slide. That's all you needed. And you just took off speaking about positive parenting. And I mean, having coached you, that's the one thing that has been just all over what you do, what you think about, what you speak about. Positive
Mhm.
parenting. So, can you take us a bit further into that world? What is it? And like, how do we yeah, let's start there with what is it? I think we have a comment. So good night, Julie and Lisa. Well, ladies talk. Well, that would probably be Sani you here. That's Sani you say good night. Sani is
Hi,
another
Daniel.
graduate.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so regarding positive parenting, um, I would say when we talk about positive parenting, we're talking about using a positive approach, recognizing that in order for our children to thrive, both academically and professionally, and just as individuals in society, they need from us that understanding that they are loved, they are appreciated, that they are special. And we are talking about showing it, saying it in what we do and what in the way we reach out to them, in the way we speak to them. We're talking about saying I love you, giving them the hugs they need, giving them their kisses, appreciating what they're doing. And it doesn't mean that we are not correcting them. It doesn't mean that we are spoiling them. It doesn't mean that we are soft. It means that we are respecting them, we are loving them, and we let them know that they are loved. And we realize that when we have that kind of positive approach to our parenting, the children thrive. They are more self-confident, they know what they're about, they ask questions, especially when what we say and what we do don't really, are not compatible. They ask questions. And it's not in a rude way at all. It's just because they have the confidence to have that critical analytical way of doing things and to ask questions when things make no sense,
Mhm.
right? So this is what positive parenting is about. It's really understanding our children's love languages and using them, recognizing that when they do something wrong, we can correct them with love, but we are not always focusing on criticizing them. Oh, your room is so dirty. Oh, why can't you be like your brother or your sister? Why can't you, why were you ever born? There are people who are actually been told these things by their parents. So it's helping us to reflect on the type of parenting we are doing in order to build those children into strong individuals who can now face society and succeed.
So where's this coming from? As far as I know, like me, like we just had normal growing up, right? So what made you go in that direction to take it even further, I should ask.
Wow, what made me go in that direction? I would say a lot of things. As a sociologist, as a researcher, I saw and experienced, a lot of the negative aspects of family life sometimes
Mhm.
and of society when, society doesn't have things in place for the most vulnerable people, especially. If you have a single mother, she has whether it's two, three, whatever number of children, and she is struggling, her job is not allowing her to provide all of the needs of her children. This is what we would call, one of those who are in the vulnerable category. And where we have systems in place that further marginalize them or do not recognize that they need some extra care,
Mhm.
that is probably what, frustrated me a lot because I have done so much research in that area, helping, different Caribbean governments, even Latin American governments in terms of helping them to build policy on family and development and recognizing that it was not making the kind of dent that you expected because many times those reports were just chucked away on a shelf, not because they didn't value it, but maybe there was no will to really enforce.
Mhm.
And I started realizing that, especially through Speak with Confidence, and then later with, Find Your
Find your
Fire, so
fire.
to
We'll
bring
talk
it
about
in
that.
now. But,
Yes.
it really helped me to realize that what I needed to do is to reach the people who needed it most. Forget the middleman, because the middleman was sometimes the money was just saying, right, they are not reaching the people or the interventions and the types of support that they needed. they were not getting that. And so I realized that, when even my own research for my PhD, it was really trying to understand what was the impact of children having those negative experiences, whether it is in terms of emotional neglect
Mm-hmm.
or physical neglect and physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse. We found that once children had those adverse childhood experiences, they had an increased chance of engaging in maladaptive behaviors, whether it is smoking and drinking and, other criminal behaviors. So that is what, it was always there. I always felt this longing to do more. I felt like, we were not doing enough. And I have to admit, it was through your program when most times you gave us an assignment, I always found myself
Oh,
speaking on something about families, about parents.
uh,
And I didn't know it, but I was always doing it. But you were able to highlight for me, you know what, there is something there. There's a spark
yeah.
there. So I do appreciate that you were able to pick it up.
Oh yeah, we picked it up because it was just there. Just a couple days ago, as obviously I coached like the executives privately, so on. The same thing happened. We were going through drills, and something just opened up in this person speaking. I was like, "Have you ever done this?" And again,
Mm,
it was the way that he was speaking about, like as a leader talking to young leaders. And this
mm,
this young man, he's a CEO, he's at top of his game, and he just opened up in a way that he had not, even as he was talking about, like leadership and just being in the business that he's in, whatever. When he began to speak to young people, I was like, okay, have you ever done this before? Should you consider doing this? Because clearly that is your fire,
there's
right?
something there. Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
so let's move on a little bit. Now we're getting into a bit of life and what life is now like for you. And I wanted to go back to it was earlier this year when I called you crying, right?
Yeah, I was going to mention that, but you said it.
Okay. All right, you guys. So I'm setting it up for you. Okay. That's why you need to take speaking seriously. And then, just do what you're supposed to do. Anywho, I went back to my home country, our home country, to St. Lucia. I was doing some work down there and decided to stay at my grandparents' place. They both passed away, and I stayed at the house. And it's the middle of the afternoon. I'm getting ready for my next day presentation, and I heard this child screaming down the road, screaming. Okay, I have sons, and well, it's children anyway. It's not even a matter of what the gender is. But anywho, I forgot myself for a little while, right? And I just ran out of my grandparents' house in my little shorts and tank top to see why is this child crying like something is going on. And I see this young mom um whipping the child. She
Mhm,
had like the peas, the is a pigeon peas tree that's right next to
mhm.
the door,
The
and
brand.
the branch of
Mhm,
the tree, and she was whipping the child, and the poor kid was just in his underpants, and he
mhm.
looked like he was sweating, almost like he had
No protection. No protection from his clothes.
no
He had no
protection.
clothing to
No,
protect
so
him.
it's
Yeah.
right on his skin. It's right on his
Mhm.
skin. And I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry, okay? Because Joy's
I,
gonna
I
deal with this. I'm not gonna cry.
yeah.
And to see the child in that kind of distress, the mother is cussing him out, beating him at the
Mhm.
same time. No mercy, no love. It's just pure. I don't know what the child did, but as far as I'm concerned, what could a child do to deserve that
Have
kind of
done.
abuse?
Mhm.
And worse yet, what broke my heart is everybody in the area was just
Not
going
just
about
going
their
by.
business. So
Yeah.
it told me in the
Mhm.
moment it was not the first time,
It is
right? It
normalized.
was
Mhm.
normalized. I forgot myself. Okay, I in our Saint Lucian way broke up in the people yard, and I'm like, "What are you doing? You want me to put you on camera?" I literally said that. Of course, I was not going to put this lady. I was not going to do that. But like, I hope you hear people hear in my voice, like, um, just the emotion of it. Sanu saying that kind of tree burns, and with no clothes, you can well imagine. Exactly, exactly. It was
Mhm.
meant to burn and meant to hurt. I said,
Yeah.
"What are you
Yeah.
doing? Why are you beating the child like that? What did the child do?" And the poor, he's just cowering because he's afraid. And she turned around. Of course, I got the worst. I got the graduated curses. Okay, Yes, and then I told my mom is like, what were you doing in the people's yard? Couldn't you stay on the road and talk to the people? So when, because it was just the emotion of
And
like,
you didn't, you failed to say that it was in the middle of a very rural community.
it's
Yeah?
a
So
very rural
if
community.
something could have
Red
happened, then
Earth,
nobody would have known.
exactly. If anything, and well, we had neighbors, we had people around. I know we have people
The
around.
same people, the same people who did nothing about the child would
Well,
have come
yeah,
to
that
rescue
too.
you.
That
Okay.
too. And plus two, I was like the foreigner, even if I've lived up there before, whatever. No,
Exactly.
you're right. But a little caution in terms of stepping in, not to be the
Mhm.
superwoman, whatever. But at some point when I started going on and getting on too, she stopped. Very
Mhm.
annoyed, not embarrassed, excuse me, not embarrassed,
Mhm.
annoyed. Annoyed. Okay. And then so I spoke to my brother and he said that he knows who she is. And I think they had a conversation after because like she kept on passing up and down the house, our house after. So I think she might have been looking for conversation. I had nothing to say, I had nothing to give because I went back home after she had stopped. She pushed the child inside the house, but she herself stayed out. So I figured, okay, I didn't hear any more crying. So maybe that whipping was done for the day. That's what I'm hoping, right?
Mhm.
So the reason I'm bringing this up is because at that time Julie had just started. I took a group of speakers who I knew were available and had something to say. And Julie, my dear friend and client and colleague and all of the things, she was one of those. I took a group of great speakers together in January for a new program that I'm starting called Find Your Fire. And it's for those people who not just can speak, but have something to say and can possibly turn it into a career, turn it into a professional something to do. And she's clearly one of them. One of the things that we struggled with very early in Find Your Fire, I don't remember if you recall, was stepping out. You remember that? Stepping out and being seen. Well, we'll talk about that. Let me just finish that little piece there. When that happened with the child, I called Julie crying on the phone, like hyperventilating. And I was
Mhm.
like, that is why you need to step out. If you didn't think you had a reason to speak before, it's for women like that who are clearly
Mhm.
in distress and clearly need help. How is somebody like you going to reach them and give them the help that they need? Because it came to me so clearly for the Find Your Fire program. It wasn't just about getting people to speak with confidence. You've never had a confidence problem. That's not what it was about. It was about having a message and getting it out there so that you make both impact and income. I am going to
Mhm.
stop and let you take over that part of the story. Dr. Xavier, go ahead.
Thank you, Lisa. And yeah, I mean, for me, it really was meaningful that you would have called me because you have a host of people. You have your, okay, you have a network of people. And the fact that you called me about that, it just really resonated with me and reminded me and reassured me and reconfirmed for me that this was my purpose. Because, I mean, for many years, I've been, kind of struggling with that idea because obviously I have done a lot of work in terms of research before and all of these things, and I've gotten to the stage where we have decided that, we are homeschooling, and at the same time, I'm struggling to figure out what does that mean for me. Yes, we homeschool. I do what I have to do. I have support, but in terms of all of those years of me of studying,
Yeah.
how am I applying that? Yes, my children benefit, but I always believe there was something more. And I struggled. I read books about finding your purpose. At this stage, I was saying, how is it that you're still trying to figure out your purpose in life?
Well,
And I
people
think
older
maybe it
than
is
us.
a matter of something that changes over time, right?
Mhm.
It's not a standard thing. You found your purpose and that's it. Even doctors go and specialize afterwards, medical doctors.
Right.
So, when you called me about that and, you reached out to me, I was able to share with you other experiences I've had like that where I had to intervene,
And
and it
still
really reassured me that this is something that is burning inside me. Whenever I listen to the news and I hear of a child being, suffering from whatever it is, I always feel like, what could I have done? What could I see? Who could I reach to have impacted that child? Sometimes I literally have sleepless nights. I wake up and I think about, what about those children who are actually being sexually assaulted at this point?
Yep.
And I'm like, why am I thinking of these things? But I understand that this is just part of my calling now. And so I have to say with the program, it really helped me to figure that out. And what is happening now for me is really having the opportunity to reach out to agencies that work with parents in one way or another, and to be able to offer them that kind of support in terms of providing positive parenting training, recognizing that it's not that, well, in fact, it is a situation where it's different from the kind of parenting that we would have received. It was very natural, very normal, and it's okay to be beating. We have quotes from the Bible that tell us all sorts of things that yeah, it's okay to beat. But we are also recognizing that we are in a different age, a different era where maybe it didn't have an impact on on ourselves, or I think it really did. Maybe it didn't, but it is a situation where we can do things differently,
Yeah,
you know,
we can
and
do
that
it differently.
we all love to be loved. There's no one, do you know anybody who doesn't love to be
Nope,
loved?
not at all.
So
I
we
don't know
all
anybody.
have children who grow up not knowing that they are loved. The study I did for my PhD, it's about over 10 years now, but I would say if I have to repeat it, it would have the same result, or even worse, in the sense it said, you know, 7 out of 10 of our high school children or secondary school children here in St. Lucia are emotionally neglected. They've not been told I love you. They don't experience hugs. They don't
Seven out
experience
of 10? Sorry, seven out. Did you say
7
seven
out
out of
of
10?
10. 7 out of 10 from the study that I did. And as I say, I believe, it had other aspects to it, but this is the one I'm sharing in terms of that emotional neglect, that we don't give hugs and kisses. And for me, I was talking about this, I knew about it, and I was not necessarily practicing, right? I mean, we hug our children, we give them kisses, we tell them I love you off and on. But from this whole process, it made me start to apply what I was learning and what I was doing and what I was preaching in my own home, in
Mm-hmm.
the sense that I decided every single day and every single morning when my girls wake up, I am going to give them a hug, a kiss, and I'm going to tell them I love you. So it was happening haphazardly. Sometimes it happens at the start of the day, sometimes whenever. But I was deciding deliberately to do it every day. And I started seeing those changes in them. That kind of mushy feeling that makes you want to do good for that parent, because this parent is loving on you. And to the extent that when I don't do it, whether it's because I'm busy or I forget or whatever, they come and they look for it. They're like, especially when Mommy, I haven't gotten my hug for this up to
Good. Is
yesterday.
that
When
that's second of first?
first one. When she came out from her bedroom, I was on the phone. So I just gave her a wave.
No.
By the time I was done, she's like, Mommy, I have not received my hug and kiss for the morning. So I gave her a child her hug and her kiss and her I love you, because I realized it matters to them. We all love love. We love to be loved, except those who have been seriously hurt by love. We love
Mm-hmm.
it. And
Right.
so we can find other and better ways to get our children to do what they're supposed to do without having to beat on them, criticize them constantly. Or
Mm-hmm.
we need to recognize when they're doing the good. Let them hear us talk about the good thing that they did. That
Mm-hmm.
they now say, wow, mommy noticed that I did this, or daddy saw that I cleaned up after myself.
Mm-hmm.
So don't just acknowledge it to yourself that they did it, but say it. I noticed you did this. That was a great job, you know? Encourage them, and you will see that is actually going to filter through their actions, and they start to want to do the right thing.
Okay. Wow. That's a great explanation and a little bit of a deep dive into exactly what the positive parenting is. So, you guys, we have a question from Speak with This is cohort 9. This is the
Mhm.
vivacious cohort 9. Cohort 9 of Speak with Confidence was filled with people with big personalities. Like I've just been honored to have something that blesses people, informs them, educates them, grows them, and that kind of thing. And we're just getting started, right? We're just getting started. So Deborah was in cohort 9, and Deborah asked this question. And Deborah, Deborah, like you, Julie, is one of those who has a singular purpose, a singular focus, and it shows so clearly. And throughout this entire process, the one thing that I've realized, there's a saying by this guy, Bruce Lee. Deborah, we come into your question soon. There's a saying by Bruce Lee, and he says, I do not fear the man who kicks 1,000 times, but the
Mm-hmm.
man who does one kick a
One kick,
thousand, something like that.
10,000 times. Yes, I think.
Yeah, he does the same kick 1,000 times. In other words,
Yeah.
the depth of focus and the depth of expertise that comes with the repetition and the focus on a singular thing. When I look at your
Mm-hmm.
post, for example, starting Find Your Fire, all you wanted to talk about was positive parenting. You were not interested in the positive parenting. And every time you post, the kinds of comments and the kinds of people it attracts, it tells you that you are walking in something. You definitely just walking in your calling.
Meaningful, I think.
It's
Yeah, that's what it
meaningful
meant for
and
me.
it's
Yeah.
resonating because you feel it so deeply. So Deborah is
Mhm.
one of those with disabilities. That's her. Every single mini video she did
Mhm.
was on
Wonderful.
disabilities and that kind of thing. So let's look at her question now. Taking into
Mhm.
consideration our culture of the extended families, how can extended family, grandparents, aunties, uncles, etc., support positive parenting rather than unintentionally undermining it? And I think, like, we asked that question in light of the fact that a lot of tradition is passed on through our extended family.
Grandparents.
Right, exactly. So, do you want to take it
Mhm.
away? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a role for our grandparents, our parents who are the grandparents of our children. We ought not to exclude them, except where there is a definite, a toxic kind of situation going on. But we can find ways to speak with our parents and or show them what we want to do. And you know what? I actually think, from what I have observed, our parents are a lot easier on our children than they were on us. Okay?
Yeah.
They are a lot easier, but there are ways in which we can integrate them. And just by setting the example and the way we speak with them, speak with our children in front of them, they know what is expected. We set the boundaries. The same way with positive parenting is also, instead of focusing heavily on discipline, the idea is you have boundaries. The children know what is expected. Likewise, your parents can learn from you what are the boundaries when it comes to your children. They know what is allowed, what is not allowed. And I don't think we ought to exclude them, but we ought to integrate them because, it's their greatest joy that they have grandchildren and they want to be able to have a role in the whole process. I
Mhm,
think it's a matter of setting an example and letting them hear how we speak to them,
mhm.
seeing it. I mean, I can give you a quick example. This weekend, again, my girls, they're bubbly and overconfident in nature. They decided they were going to be having a circus. They're throwing
They
a
had a
circus
circus this week.
on the weekend, and they invited their grandmothers to come. They had tickets. The tickets had
The children had
$200.
tickets. The grandmothers had
Yes,
tickets.
yes. No, the student designed all of their things. And they brought them up on Sunday afternoon. Before that, they said to us, hey, you all need to go buy the refreshments because our grannies and our aunties are coming and we are throwing a show for them. And you could see how impressed the grandparents were to see them putting on their performances, especially the last one. She did all, there were 5 acts, she was in all five. Okay, and the other one was just in one.
Mm,
But the other one was, really the MC of the moment. And I was like,
mhm,
look at this. We have a speaker here already. But it's
mhm,
that level of confidence. And you saw how the grandparents were so appreciative of that. So
mhm.
I don't think we only have to be excluding them or saying, hey, you're on a different pathway, so you ought not to be part of it. We want them to learn that new approach, that different approach. And the things they say, sometimes they say things that are very embarrassing or not so positive, either to us or to our children. We could find ways, gentle and loving ways to get them back on the right track. We have grandparents sometimes who speak about or compare the quality of hair that children have. Who has the
Or the
curlier hair,
complexion. Oh my
okay,
gosh,
or
that's
the
another one. The
complexion
skin
and all of
color.
these things.
Yeah.
And one these days we just correct one time and say, well, we love them just as they are. We thank God for their special, their uniqueness. That is how we just filter in the positive comments one time. We ought not to, I don't think we have to get too upset, except if it's a real major issue, but so upset, but we correct gently. So they learn, don't come with that kind of story about which one have which hair and which color and what, there's no place for that. These are the boundaries we are setting to protect our children from that.
Okay, but boundaries are like, if you do this, I'm gonna do that. That's what boundaries are. So what if parents, like grandparents and extended family members are very set in their ways and they don't really care. I guess I'm playing the other
Yeah,
side
that's
now
advocate, yeah.
because, like, for example, even looking at what Deborah is asking there, we could clearly see that this woman, well, number one, she was not at work. Most likely, she didn't have a. It could be she had shift work. I don't know, but most likely it was because of the area. It was a depressed kind of area, lower socioeconomic situation. She probably didn't have a job, and so we were asking people who are already frustrated, not to do the things that they learned, which would have
Yeah.
provided some comfort
Naturally,
and
which
ease,
come naturally to
which
them.
come
And that is one
naturally.
of the key things
Yeah.
in my talks on positive parenting. I recognize and discuss with the parents that parenting is perhaps the most important job we will ever do. And it's also the one that we were not taught how to do.
Hmm.
Okay? We were taught how to swim, we were taught how to drive a car, we
Yeah.
were taught how to do all sorts of things. But
Hmm.
once we proved that we could have a child,
Hmm.
we were given a child at the hospital and say, go along, figure it out. And how do we figure it out? We figure it out. Most times, our default approach is the one that we learn or we experience as children.
Yeah.
And so, when we talk about positive parenting, we can also think of conscious parenting, which involves thinking about your experience when you were a child, understanding was that the best approach? What aspect did you enjoy? What aspects were not so healthy or not so positive and you want to cut away from?
Hmm.
And I could tell you the last set of parents I spoke with or I did some training with a few weeks ago, these were some of the things we talked about. They were able to say, my parents showed me absolutely no love and I knew I was not loved, but I made a conscious effort and decision to not have that same approach with my children.
Hmm.
And so that's what we want them to do. Also, attached to what you're saying is the need, and we also include that in our training, this idea of self care. Okay, that parents
Okay.
are
Look at
stressed out in
look
all
at
sorts of
Charmaine's question. Look at Charmaine's question. Another speak with confidence, right?
enormous question.
Yeah. She says that to hold that thought on self care to speak about that to me, right?
Mhm.
How can parents emotionally regulate when sometimes parenting is challenging? I think it
One
like.
of the ways is a deep breathing, recognizing, okay, we recognize that we have an issue first, okay, because maybe it's happening over and over again. And as I say, we all love love, okay? After we have been terrible in terms of how we treated our child, most of us feel badly about it. Very few would be, yes, I got you. No, we feel bad. Be honest, we feel badly about it. And it's because it wasn't a good experience. It caused us a lot of stress. So
Mm-hmm.
if we find that we are doing that over and over, whether it is in the shouting, the screaming, the cursing, the beating, the exclusionary activity, whatever it is we are doing, that we know is not so positive, and there's a repetition of it, that's the first step. We
Mm-hmm.
recognize there's a problem. One of the things, a very easy thing that we can do is a deep breathing exercise. Step away for a little while, whether it's counting, now you're seeing that this is happening, you tell yourself, this is how I'm going to respond the next time it happens. So I'm taking my deep breath. I can literally put my fingers up and do some deep breathing like that, going up and down, in and out and up and down to help me.
Even that pause.
Just that little pause makes me think before I react.
Yeah.
There are lots of other little strategies, but just in terms of our timing, that's one of the ways when we,
Oh,
we
yeah,
need.
we have time. I pushed back my other
Okay, good.
my client because this is very important, I believe. It's a worthy topic, right? So Deborah saying I love that question from Charmaine. That question, I think, strategies for overcoming. I remember when I have three boys, and there were times, especially the first two are close in age, and they have strong personalities, and there were times I'd just be like, Lord, okay, I can't. I know I can't. I know I
Mm,
can't. I can't.
we
Um,
all go through.
yeah, and I think like one of the things that adds to the comfort of being a parent, if I may, is to know that was it Khalil Gibran who said that a long time ago, that your children are not your children, that they came through you. And at the time when I was reading that, like 21, 22 at university, I didn't know what on earth this man was saying. But here's the thing, having kids this later and saying, and recognize that they're 17, 16, and 11, I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, they belong to God. They
Mhm.
actually belong to God. God has a plan for them. And I think, like, and not everybody here obviously is a person of faith, but for me, one of the things that has helped is that the Bible talks about training up a child in the way that he should go, and when he gets older he will not depart. Part of
Mhm.
that process is knowing what is the way that every single child should go. Not every single
Mhm.
child is meant to do the same thing or
Oh,
to be
yeah.
trained in the same way and grown up
And
the
that is
same way.
why one of the things we do as part of the positive parenting training is that we emphasize this idea of the language of love, or the love languages, basically. Because each child is different, just like you. You have your way of showing your love. And the same way you show your love is the way you expect love to be shown to you. Whether your love language is, acts of kindness or service, um, you know, the words, whatever it might be, okay? If you like touch, some people don't want to be touched. Some people just do something for me, and I know you love me.
Don't touch
Or
me. Just work.
some people want a gift. You
Hmm.
know, whatever it is you prefer in terms of your love language, we should also try to understand as well what is the love language of our children. As I said, my first daughter in particular, she loves a hug. When she's down, and give her a hug and she's good to go. That's why when she doesn't get it, she comes looking for it because it matters to her, and that is how she shows love, receives love. So if we would first ask ourselves, what are the love languages of our children? And not because they're your children, you expect them to be all the same. Each one is different. And so we need to go deep into understanding our children to then figure out what works for each one and do it. And that's how they know they love. And a child who knows and feels love, let me tell you, that just boosts that child's confidence to feel like they can conquer the world. Nobody can stop them.
So remember we've had some conversations in coaching in meetings about the place of discipline in the
Mm-hmm.
whole positive parenting. Like, where is the, not that there's no but. I just wanted to, like, explain for our audience, like, where is the place of discipline, because love without discipline is spoiled brat.
No, there are consequences. You set again. We've set the boundaries. In some cases, we might have to give them options. They choose one thing or another, as opposed to always being told this is the only
Yes,
thing.
yes.
Okay, whether it is, and I remember learning that long time, even before I had children. I had a friend. She was actually practicing that, and I did not even realize it because I didn't have children. A co-worker when I worked at the OAS, she would say, my children always want to dress whatever they, wear whatever, and we are in cold Washington, D.C. at the time. She would give them an option, two things, you could wear this or that, but they had to be weather appropriate. At the end of the day, the children got to choose, and when we are just giving them no options, they feel constricted, they feel, um, you know, they're not allowed to explore their personality and who they are. But yes, we can set our boundaries by giving them those options. In terms of discipline, when they know what is expected of you and they also know what are the likely consequences, we just need to ensure that we are consistent in having those consequences when they err or when they falter. If we
Yeah.
decide, there is no, if you have not, you fail to do whatever it is, whether it is clean your room or whatever your chores are, then you're not going to go to ballet today or you're not going to go to
Yep.
gymnastics. And
Yep.
then when it comes time to gymnastics, you say, Mommy, please, girl. Did
No.
you do it? No, you didn't do it. But then we're gonna, so we're confusing them.
Right.
We are really confusing them. So when it comes to the discipline, it's that they understand that if this does not happen as was expected and was clearly communicated, and that
Mhm.
is very important because sometimes we can be all over the place in the way we communicate with them. We have to be clear, consistent, and constant. We
Okay.
go on and on and on. We're confusing them. The message gets lost.
Okay, got you. So let's move on now to this journey of speaking, because in the Find Your Fire program, which we're starting in August, by the way. So if you have something to say and you see this energy, like I'm here just super proud, super humbled to have seen this talent and to have said, hey, like, let's go. You can do stuff, right? Because now you're seeing the fruit of having developed and having stepped out in your passion, right? So tell us where you started, because Julie, even over the last couple months, what you speak about has changed a little bit. Like, it's still within that whole family of positive parenting, but somehow stepping out and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to speak, I'm going to get out there, I'm going to share what I have with the world. Doing that has just yielded so many more opportunities. So tell us about, like, what speaking gig you're on. I can't count. I'm looking at the calendar. I'm like, okay, it's just all pink. It's all, oh, okay, she's off tomorrow, and all of those kinds of things, right? Tell us how it started and some of the things that you've learned and done along the way to get to this point.
Okay, so I recognize from the onset that my focus was on families and on children. I love children, and for me, they are innocent beings, and they ought not to suffer consequences of our actions, inactions, of issues that we are facing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. I feel we have to ensure that their well-being is always protected, because whatever we do with them now is going to affect them later on and affect how they parent. Okay, so if we can ensure that we are protecting them and encouraging them to thrive, then for sure we have done our work. At the end of the day, again, I am Christian just like you, and so I believe at the end God will ask me, what did you do with those children I gave charge to you? Okay,
Yes.
what
Yeah.
did you do with them? How did you mold them? Did you build them up, or did you destroy their real souls? Okay, so I believe I have to account at the end, and that is all part of it. And I think if more of us would take parenting that seriously, as in it's not just a fly by night thing that we could just do
Yes.
whatever anyhow, and take it more seriously. So this came to me from our processes, with the Find Your Fire, recognizing that there was a passion for this. And once I got these opportunities, one of the challenges you gave us was to go find opportunities to speak. It was never an issue for me to speak, because I
Oh.
speak for my work, I do research, and I share the research. But this was different in the sense that it was more focused.
Mm-hmm.
It was not, it's focused on a particular topic, and it is geared towards changing mindsets, it's geared towards changing behavior about something that people, I would say, have held on to for a long time, and they have, you know, these views that this is the only way. If
Yes,
we
you have
don't
to be
beat them,
rich
they
with
will
it.
never. No,
Yes,
we
yes.
have to give them some, beatings. If we don't beat them, there's no way they will do the best at it again.
Yeah, yeah.
So that came about as a result of the program for sure. It came about as well as my frustration that I mentioned earlier, just with the system not really doing what is expected in terms of helping those persons, especially those who are, more vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started by just focusing on positive parenting talking. And as part of the positive parenting talking, and to really ensure that we got more persons on board, we recognize it's because parents are frustrated and stressed. If we are so stressed out by our work, by relationships, you know, by, maybe our economic situation, we might be working or
Mm-hmm.
not working,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever we have economic hardship, if we are stressed out, how can we do any kind of positive parenting?
Right. So
Once
so
these
kind of
children do anything wrong, we're gonna flip, we're gonna act, we're gonna react, and they get the full brunt of it, whether they deserve it or not. Whether it was a very minor something that they did or not, we are waiting to explode.
mm-hmm.
And so that this is how my topic has evolved, not just focusing on positive parenting, but getting the parents to understand the need to care for themselves,
Yeah.
to do a little workout, to take a little break, to breathe, to figure out what are the things you like, you enjoy doing that you've not done in a long time, especially because you have become parents. And it was amazing. I did a session, 2 sessions with the same group of parents. I, talked to them at length about self-care, and I said, okay, this is Friday. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to promise yourself that over the weekend you're going to do something that you love, that you've not done in a long time, to care
Uh-huh.
for yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
by the time we came back, I think it was not the next week, but a week after, I asked did you do any self-care? Oh, they were bubbling,
Mm,
with energy and pride to be able to say, this one said, I went down the coast. I have not done, I'm from the south and I have not done that in a long time. I was able to go and reconnect. This one said, I went to the beach with my dog, men as well as women, I will
yeah,
tell you,
men as well as
right?
because it's not
And,
just the focus is not on females, right? It's not
that,
just on moms, it's on
and
parents. Yeah.
it is there is a focus on single mothers when needed,
Yeah.
because sometimes they're the ones who, but whoever, I had quite a few single fathers,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really beneficial to them to be able to talk about how they are now thinking about caring for themselves to relieve the stress. I taught them the different breathing techniques when they are frustrated before they react against the children to breathe and so on. And, it was really beneficial to them.
Okay, so we're almost at the end. We have about 10 minutes. I want to get some stuff in. I know you've also done some speaking on bullying. How did that, like, what people need to, one of the things I want to leave with people is that speaking begets speaking. Every
Yes,
speaking engagement, if you're good at it and if you're doing what you're supposed to, it will open another door for you. People begin to see the possibilities when they hear you and when you step out. So this is a great example. It's giving the information about positive parenting, but I think like another narrative that I'm weaving through everything tonight is what happens when you take your passion and you step out and you start to use it for good. Okay, so
yes.
talk to us about how some of this has evolved into bullying, because you've had to do more than one session on bullying. I've gone
Mm.
around the island doing this. Like, talk to us about that. What happened? How did that
Yes.
come about?
Um, it was at a school that I was speaking with the school principal, and she reminded me that I think Xavier, over 7 or 8 years ago, I actually did a session with parents at her school. I
Seriously?
hadn't remembered that. Yes.
Uh-huh.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I realized this thing has been bubbling in there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, she said, so when are you going to come again and talk to us? I said, whenever you're ready, I can do another session on positive parenting or whatever. She said, what about bullying?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, I could do that. And I saw instantly how it's connected,
Mm-hmm.
because the whole idea of positive parenting is that we recognize that there is some sort of intergenerational transmission of
Yes.
whatever it is. Okay, so
Yes.
we default to the type of parenting we receive. That's what we receive because that's what we were taught. We
Yes.
never went through a class or a course on
To learn.
parenting. So our learning was when we were children. And
Mm-hmm.
then once we start to teach people about positive parenting, they can then pass it on to their children. And that could help with the bullying because it's a matter of recognizing it's violence, we get violence. We tell ourselves, okay, we need to beat them, we need to take sticks and beat them. And again, in one of the schools I have been to, I saw the length of a stick that was being used to beat
My
those
God.
children. And
I
I'm
thought,
like,
well, I
how
thought
is it that it is
corporal
in
punishment
law, in
was,
law, in law, yeah, in law, okay?
oh, it's
That yes,
only okay. So in other words, it's outlawed. It's banned in the schools legally, but it still happens. That's what you're saying?
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah. De
wow.
facto, I tell you, this stick that this teacher had, I saw, and that was a few weeks ago. This was about 3 feet long. Uh,
Wow.
yeah. Okay. And those children, she was just going through the class with the thing. And I'm like, we are asking them to not bully and not show violence or, show kindness, basically.
Hmm.
But then what are we passing on to them?
So what do you say to the person who's listening to you right now and is like, you don't know some children out there? What do you say to that person?
Yeah.
Because you know we're coming up against, you're saying this and you're coming up against like very deeply entrenched religious and just traditional ways of raising children. What do you say to those people who like you just have not
I
met your
say,
children yet?
you tell me, I don't know those children out there. The children out there that we are talking about that are such, whatever we want to call them, they did
Hardened.
not create them. They did not create themselves. Something or somebody created them.
Yeah.
And all they need is a little love. And I've seen it. I have seen it. I've seen how children melt when they just hear and know that they are loved and they are seen.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
have countless examples where I am at school because I take although my girls are homeschooled, I take them to get to do their gymnastics at a couple of schools and so on, right? And I see how they get treated, and you just speak to the child and you say, something positive. How are you feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's wrong? Or, you know, this is beautiful about you. You know, I know what they said here, but this is, you know, you just
Mm-hmm.
change the narrative slightly and you see how it just melts the children. Likewise, I probably shouldn't give that example.
Okay, but before
But
we
you know, there
because
are, yeah,
I really want to segue into how you transition, Julie, from going out and creating opportunities to speak to now developing a program that you're planning to take into the schools from September. Yeah,
mm,
on positive parenting, and it's like you are going to be coaching the parents, you're going to be taking it into the schools, and I mean that's where you see the like putting in the toil of creating
yeah,
opportunities, doing something for free, and now being at the point where, yes, you are subscribed, you are getting booked to be able to go into those schools and go into these organizations. And what I like too, it's not just in St. Lucia. Like what you're teaching is literally one of the concepts I am so proud of for Speak with Confidence is to teach people that we live in a borderless world,
mm-hmm,
that you have a universal concept you can apply to the entire world. And that's exactly what you're starting to do, that this program that you're developing is actually available virtually. And I guess what we're looking for too is like, they're going to just fly you out to do your program,
of
come in,
course,
install
of
you, and
course.
just what
Mm.
we take that.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's a
So
speaking life.
again, I remember one of the things that you, in terms of our coaching activities together, you would have recommended that, you know, yes, you're doing positive parenting, but let's think of the different subtopics or the cousins, you
The
call them.
cousins in the
And that's
family.
exactly what happened and it evolved. So self-care for parents as a cousin, it's you know,
Yeah.
a descendant of the positive parenting
Yeah, lives
thing.
in the
But
family.
you
It's
kind of,
part of the
yeah,
family.
it's part and parcel of evolving and supporting the family holistically.
Yeah.
Likewise, the bullying, because
Mhm.
most of the time when you find children bullying, it's because at home they are just being beaten up and bullied by other siblings or
Mhm.
their parents themselves. Okay, and another one that has come through is really positive speaking, which
Okay.
I have not seen anywhere yet as such, but in terms of I've done a session or two with teachers and
Teachers.
we've seen how the very same concept of positive parenting can be applied to how they teach. You understand the child's love language. Yes, the child is the hardest one that you could find, but
Mm-hmm.
try treating them with love and you will see how at first they will push you away because it's so unusual to them,
Yeah.
but consistently doing it. And I've gotten, examples from teachers of how doing that actually melts and changes and molds those children differently from what is expected or what everybody just lumps them into, oh, they're the no good class or that child from that bad home or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But try treating them differently from how all the other teachers are treating them and you will see the difference.
Wow. I wish we had another hour, but we don't. So I want to tell people a little bit about number one, where can people contact you? Let's do that, Julie, because like I what makes people reach out and book somebody or something is when you see the authenticity of how they do it. And like you feel it. We have a couple of them, including you in Speak with Confidence. You feel it. You literally feel it, right? And who believe that beatings worked for them to now adopt positive? Shami, okay, we'll leave that question for another time. But
That's
when
a follow-up question
contact
or
you,
this
like
is
Julie does not even have her website set up yet, right? But
no,
she's ready to
no,
go and she's already working. And
yeah,
this
the
is the
work has been done. I'm ready to speak.
this,
Yeah.
let me tell you why I'm saying that. Because the traditional way of people who just get all the bells and whistles and not the work, I set up the website. Oh, I get the business cards. Remember, I warned against those things. I was like, no, you get that after you have proof of concept. You get out
Mhm.
there and you work and you do the legwork of getting known, getting clients, and then you can go and put on the bells and whistles. But some people have the best websites and no clients. That's not going to be anybody in my
Yeah,
programs.
thank you. No, it has really helped. Going out to speak has gotten me more and more. So I've done 8. Tomorrow will be the ninth one. I've told myself I'm not doing. You did. Challenge us to do 10. I can't do 10 because literally I just need to reach out to the people and it's done.
Oh, you'll get
But
what? So you think you're done? You're going to get another speaking engagement from this. Excuse me. They
I
call her
am
in
sure
New
when I
York.
expect it, I call it, I claim it. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. So That is what has happened. That every time I speak, somebody comes up and gets my number, my information, and not just get it, but they have followed through and contacted me. Other schools have contacted me, and the same school where I have done it have asked me to do other things or with other groups because I cannot do all the whole school one time. It's just, that's one of the things that I also learned with you in
Mm-hmm.
terms of planning, preparing, practicing and the passion, for what is important in terms of your going out there to speak,
Yeah.
knowing who are we going to, where are they going to be, what is the setting, how many are they. So
All these
that helps us to
services.
know
Mm-hmm.
what are the icebreakers that we're going to use, what are the actual systems and activities and strategies we're going to share. So once you know that, you can better plan for your activity and for your speaking engagement. So that has really helped me. And definitely, I can say for sure, going out to speak gets you to speak more.
Yeah, it does. It gets you more accustomed. You know what the needs are, and you just get more experience, more doors open. Every time you speak, you should get another speaking engagement.
And
And
help you
that's
to fine tune the message too.
absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
listen, I mean,
Okay,
one of the
Julie,
schools
so,
I
so
did,
sorry, Julie, but I need to give your email or something that people can contact you. Where can they
so my,
contact
my
you?
email address is Julie, Julie,
X
V as
V.
in V, first V
Uh-huh.
as in Vanessa,
Uh-huh.
Xavier or Xavier, which is
Xavier
Xavier,
at Gmail.
Xavier at
I got it.
gmail.com.
Okay, there it
I'm
is.
also on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook.
Okay, what is your Instagram handle? Do you remember it? At Julie, the same
Julie V. Xavier. Julie V. Xavier.
Julie V. Xavier. So yeah, so it's right there. Go look for her, go follow her. And if you're looking for somebody to really inspire parents and the kids alike, this is the time when speakers are booking for the fall. That's what it is,
Before,
right?
yes,
That
yes.
we have
That's
we
what I'm
teach
doing
that
right
in
now.
your
Yeah.
fire of when you book and speaking is a business, right? You go off, you
Yeah.
create opportunities, you get known, people know what you're about, and at some point it overflows into, hey, these are my programs, this is what I charge for speaking, and this is how you can contact me. Did I, oh shucks, Julie, I messed it up. Oh, let me
It's
just,
Julie, Julie,
just because, yeah, hang on, so sorry. Let's get this right. Julie, Julie,
V as in Vanessa, V,
and Xavier. Okay, did I get
yeah,
it here?
Xavier.
Xavier at
At
gmail.com.
gmail.com.
Okay, you guys, here's the link if you want to contact her, or you can go on, and that's the same handle at Julie V Xavier. That's her handle on Instagram as well. You can also find on LinkedIn as well. Right? Okay, so I think oh my goodness. So we have to get out of here because I think the next program is on for Watch Radio. One more thing I want to tell people about, okay, where it all started with Julie is doing this five-step process. And
Mm-hmm.
because like it's a powerful five steps, I'm like, I should probably leave that for the program because I'm teaching it on Sunday. And if people are enterprising enough, most people will need the coaching for the program. Like Julie
Mm-hmm.
and her colleagues who did it. But then on, let me just put this on and take us off for a little while. I'm teaching this on Sunday, July 6th, 4 p.m. MST. That would be 6 p.m. EST. The five simple steps that I followed, and like people like Julie who have trained and who are now stepping out in their passion, making impact and income. I'm teaching those five steps on Sunday. So you want to be in that room if you want to actually, just learn about it. Let me just put up that link very quickly. Julie, just bear with me. I don't mean
No
to be
problem.
rude. Yeah,
No
just
problem.
yeah, let me just put it out there. If you want to sign up, there's still time to sign up. It's free. You just have to show up because I'm not sending out any I'm not sending out the there's no replay. There's no replay.
The recording.
There's no pre there's none of that. I'm tired of all of these things. I never watch them anyway. I figure like no. So if you want to be in the room, come and ask your questions and learn the five simple steps to become a paid speaker. They are simple steps. It doesn't mean they are easy to do. But Julie
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of the other speakers who I had in that test group, they are testament to the fact that it works because you felt the outpouring from her today. Like no doubt, Julie. Like you could go on words for days, as I say. Here's the link to sign up for the Find Your Fire program. If you are watching on LinkedIn, I'm gonna just go and put it in the comments after, so you can sign up. But sign up and come. Promise yourself that you're going to give yourself options. Promise yourself that you will make an impact and make an income. She's doing great work because she found the thing that she wants to speak about. And now it's spreading not just into talking, right, Julie? It's spreading into
Yes,
programs and coaching. Because I
yes,
know for sure you and I have discussed that there's a coaching program for parents. Like that's coming. Okay.
mhm. Yes, eventually, yes.
I have faith in my people, I have
Definitely.
faith.
Yes.
That's what I do. Pull out the greatness. Let's go. Okay. So thank
Mhm.
you. Any last words for the parent who's struggling and be like, what am I going to do? Yeah.
Yes, I want to say to any parent who's struggling,
Mm-hmm.
do the best that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And when you know better, start to do
Mm-hmm.
better. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Start to do better. And
That's very
this is
comforting.
some words from Maya Angelou, but I think it's important because, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, but we need to give ourselves grace. I'm sure if you don't feel right about what you're doing right now, it's because you don't feel right about it. It's because something in you tells you there's something wrong and you need help in fixing it. So
Mm-hmm.
give yourself some grace, breathe, and find some help. Okay, wherever you may be, there is help out there.
Wow. Thank you so much. I'm what I'm leaving with. Take parenting, even as I call myself a veteran parent because my kids are like, well, the first one's at least is 17 and
Mhm.
16. So they're older, and thank God, they're with us still. Praise the Lord for that. But what I'm getting from you is still to be intentional about parenting. Nobody's
Yes.
asking you to go and wave a placard and to go and get the
No,
ribbon for
simple
best
things,
parent, but be the best
simple
parent for
things.
your child.
Mm. Yes, yes,
That's what
yes.
we need to do, right? Yeah.
Mm.
Okay,
And
everybody.
I would just, one thing I did not mention, I would say quality time. A little quality time with them is so
Uh-huh.
valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's very important as well. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for entertaining us and staying
Thank
with
you,
us for the
Lisa.
entire
Thank you for what
session.
you do. Keep on doing it.
Oh my goodness, my pleasure to see you all win. Like just bring it home. Bring home the trophies.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
All
righty.
right. Take care, everybody.
Bye
Okay.
bye.
I'll call you. We'll
Bye
talk.
bye. Okay.
All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right.
See you. Bye-bye.